Good afternoon. We are extremely excited about being here, just to be invited into the space. And I want to encourage you all to be a part of the discussion. We're going to have breakout sessions at the tables. And I want to thank Educare, not for just this opportunity, but the space that they've created to have honest conversations about things that impact children and families. Because I believe years ago this would have never taken place. So I'm thankful for it. So we're going to make it worth your time. I'm a stickler for time, so I'm going to shut up and keep on going. So let me introduce the panel first. So to my left, this gentleman here is James Hollyfield. He's a lead pre-K teacher at our East Point site. He was actually a former teacher at Educare Atlanta, and he went into the school system to teach second grade. And he came back a year later, and I'll let him talk about that at some point. This gentleman here, this is Randy Berry. He's one of the family support specialists at Educare Atlanta. He's been with us for about 2 years. This gentleman here I've known for quite a while. This is Lee Shaw. He is a former school director with Sheltering Arms. He now serves as the site director of facilities for Sheltering Arms. And then to my immediate right, this is Brian Bowers. I know a lot of you all know him. He is a family support specialist at our Educare site. So this is the panel. Please give him a hand. And I'm going to take it a step further. So, you know, any good leader never goes to a gunfight with a knife. So I brought some of my bullets. And we've got some table talk leaders here, and they represent the teaching core, family support, and all different aspects of what we do in this work. So I would like for those representatives, those panel discussion leaders, to please stand. So the session that Dr. Gilliam led this morning was a great segue into this. So I was just over the moon as I was hearing. I was kind of like, man, yes, I can't wait to get started. This is it. And he hit on two things that really spoke to me. He talked about the percentage of boys that are likely to be expelled from school. And then it's 3.5 times higher than girls, and then it's significantly higher if you take those boys and take the young African American boys out of that. So we don't have one answer to the problem, but what we found is that you're just naturally relatable to what looks like you. You're naturally relatable to who appeals to you. So that has no gender, bias one way or the other, but at the end of the day, I would like to think that when people walk into the space of Educare, and like my president and CEO Blythe discovered, that this is a space where men are welcome. So she came on board about 3 years ago, and I remember she was doing all of our tours of all of the centers, and I think we were the first site, as a matter of fact. And we were talking to the side. She's like, man, you have a lot of men in the room. And at the time, I think it was like 7 of us in the building. It was myself, 3 family support, and 3 other teachers. So she said, what's the secret sauce? So I had to say that because she's like, I coined that phrase. I'm giving her credit where credit's due. So yes, she coined that phrase. And it just kind of permeated over time. And the more and more I thought about it, I actually had a great conversation with Anita Harvey-Dixon, and she asked me the question, how did you guys come to be? So I got to thinking, I'm like, okay, how did this happen? And these were a couple things I came up with. First of all, there was a man that worked for the company some years ago, and he told me about a family support position. And I was in turn employed in that position, and shortly thereafter I was elevated to a site director. Another family support came on who worked for a local rehabilitation site here in Atlanta, and it just so happens that a lot of those guys who were working with at-risk kids, were looking for a career change. So then they came on board. As a matter of fact, this guy, not you, but that guy and some others throughout the agency. So I said that to say that it's the intentionality to which you do things that ultimately get the results that you want to see. So it was never by accident. It was the fact that somebody raised the conversation or asked a question, what's going on here? How did you get here? So we thought about it from that aspect. And then number two, and one of the table hosts said this last week when we were talking. He said that he was in school, and one of our former directors at one of our sites was doing a school visit, doing some informal recruiting, and he was talking to the admissions person at the school, and he said that the director asked the admissions person, "Do you have any male teachers or candidates?" should I say? Wow, that kind of knocked me back. This is not rocket science. Somebody asked. So it's the thought process to which we do these things. And we have to ask ourselves, do we ask those questions? Do we actively seek? And if the answer is no, that's a good place to start. So we have to think about the impact. And I'm going to let these guys talk about the impact a little bit. So I forgot I got this clicker in my hand. You know this. So males in early childhood, and as you can see in our Educare schools, we're looking at about 2% of teaching staff that are men. We have one master teacher. I actually met him when he was a lead teacher. He's in Tulsa, if I'm not mistaken. Anybody from Tulsa? Anybody want to confirm that for me? So I'm not sitting up here like, okay, cool. So there's two. Oklahoma, right, yeah, right. He was an infant teacher. I know I remember that. So I know he's now a master teacher. So, okay, the numbers went up. How about that? Oklahoma City, thank you. Family support, we have 8 of the 76, and I would like to boast that we have 3 of those 8. So, and we're looking total at about 3%. So if you see the numbers, 5.2% of child care workers in the U.S., 3% of males teach preschool. So there's a deficit there. And I think that based on some of the things that we're going to talk about, you're going to see that there's a natural need to make those numbers increase because there's just so much validity. Dr. Gilliam kind of co-signed even with the male teacher, female teacher, that vision, what a child sees, that child being able to see this man and this woman getting along. And we were kind of talking about it over lunch, and he's going to tell you about his co-teacher, his former co-teacher. So these are some of the men within Sheltering Arms. Now, mind you, we have 15 sites. So this isn't everyone. This is just the ones that we were able to coach to come over and take a photo a couple of months back. But as you can see, there's some representation. And the great thing about it is there's a lot of representation in leadership. And as we all know, for things to change, there has to be a different perspective. So as we've, elevated through the ranks, we've always kept the mindset that it takes a village, and it takes everyone in the village to be a part of the village, not one segment of the village. You have a clap. I'm an analogy guy, I'm sorry. That's why, so is that a great visual? Did you see it? I thought you would, okay. Let me throw some stats at you of Sheltering Arms. So we're sitting at about 4.5% of our teaching staff being men. Family support, 20%. Directors, 13%. And we need to strengthen the master teacher curriculum pieces. We don't have any currently at this time. But overall, we're sitting at about 5% of the staff within Sheltering Arms are males. So again, moving in the right direction. So I'm going to ask these guys some questions, and I'm going to let them kind of share their expertise and their thoughts around what exactly brought them here, what keeps them here, what are some of the things that they've learned over time that could be beneficial to all of us in this space. And then once we do that, we're going to do this for about 15, 20 minutes. We've got some wonderful questions on your table, and we're going to have these table talk leaders to ask these questions. You're going to have that rich dialogue from it. And then there's also a sheet that is for you. How did this make you, what does this make you think about? How do you feel? So on and so forth. So you can be intentional and thoughtful about this conversation beyond the walls. Because at the end of the day, this hour we have is not enough. It only works when we take it and we make it grow and we cultivate it. We have to plant those seeds early on. So I'm going to start over here, and I'm just going to throw the questions out, and you guys just jump in and do your thing. But I'm going to start over here with Mr. Hollifield. So, Mr. Hollifield, what made you come to the ECE field?
I wanted, my degree is in early childhood education. And I started with applying at Sheltering Arms. Bounced around here and there, but found out that it was fun. And I tease people and I tell people, I say, shoot, I read books for a living. How cool is that? And just being kind of the male in the school, in the building, restrooms are mostly clean. Believe it or not, the women use our restrooms. It's like, hey, what are you doing in there? It's just what it is.
This is a real conversation, people, so I hear there's some relatability to what he's saying. Go ahead.
Yeah. And just over the years, have learned that this particular job, this particular field, is more fun than could ever be. I get to sing. I get to dance. I get to play limbo. I get to play bingo. And just with my co-teacher when I was at Educare, we built a relationship. And, inside of your classrooms, it's a community. But when you have the male piece with the female, it almost becomes a family. I'm dad. And a lot of my kids say, hey, Dad, Mr. Hollifield, can you? And when we started noticing the mom and dad piece, so to speak, it changed how we interacted with each other. Now, a lot of kids, they come from homes where there's only mom. They come from homes where there's mom and dad, but they don't work it out. Mom is always fussing, dad is always fussing. But when we would interact with each other, hey, thank you for putting that on the counter for me, Miss Smith. I do appreciate that. And when a child sees that, they say, oh, wow, he was respectful to her. He was respectful to that lady. I don't see this at home. See, now you're changing the trajectory for that particular child in their lives. And knowing this, it keeps me coming back for more, to say, hey, I'm ready for tomorrow. And I'll tell my kids that, hey, I'm coming back tomorrow, are you? And they say, yeah, I'm coming back, Mr. Housfield. And then the next day I say, hey, I told you I was coming back. And they're excited about it. They're excited to see me. And a lot of times they don't see a man smiling. They don't see that. And, coming from home, dad's always angry. Dad may not have a job. Dad may be on drugs. He's angry. Raw. But at school, this is a place of safety. This is a place of, hey, Mr. Hollifield's going to shake my hand. He's going to give me some dap, because he knows that I'm going to be there on a consistent basis. And his life 10, 20, 30 years from now has changed dramatically. Not before, because, women are great, but just having that peace. What's in the sauce is what they said. What's in the sauce is what they said. So having something in the sauce in the building. See, now you have in the classroom a community, male in the classroom, you have a family, but then inside of the school, you have also the community. Because, hey, I'm walking down the hall. Hey, buddy, what's going on? Hey, Mr. Hollifield. And he sees me. And once again, I'm smiling at him. I'm smiling. And like I say, it's just giving another piece to the puzzle. And don't get it twisted, Oh, there's a man in the classroom. Oh, yeah, they listen to men. No. Because, see, sometimes they're used to hearing that female voice at home. They're used to hearing it. And when I say something to them, it's like, man, bump you. But that's where the balance comes in. You have that peace. And when you have that peace in the classroom, it may affect this child. May not be able to get little Susie over here, but I got Johnny. Johnny's going to go in a whole nother direction now. He wants to be polite. He wants to be courteous. He wants to smile. He does. So me being in the classroom and the other men, and I just learned this last week that at the DA Center, we have men that are toddler and infant teachers, which was like, oh, I'm nothing compared to what they do. Which is like, hey, man, you do it. There he is. Stand up. Come on. Yeah. Both of them. There he is. And That's another thing. I'm a father. I have a 3-year-old, and I'm sorry. My time okay?
No.
Good. I'm sorry.
We want to extend the.
Okay, yeah, I get it. Give me 2 more seconds. So I'm a father at home. I have a 3-year-old and I have a 4-month-old. And hey, I do it. I change diapers. I wash bottles. I can't breastfeed, but I got a bottle. So, me giving this to my children at home, like I say, a lot of our kids come from just single-parent homes. They don't see us. But for them to be inside of the classroom changing diapers and say, hey, little buddy, how are you? Oh, you're smiling at me while they're changing diaper. That is something very, very special. So hopefully we can continue to grow in our numbers and that percentage that you showed up there, Mr. White. We'll continue to just go greater and greater throughout the years, as we're having these discussions. So hopefully you guys got a little insight on how we do it and what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, no. Brian, how'd you get here? ECE.
First of all, I did not know that I was going to be on the Steve White show. And standing on this stage, in the training room, he will not allow me to sit down and talk, especially on a bar stool. The conversation may not work. So how did I get here? I am the eldest son of an educator who taught for 40 years. And all of my aunts, which I have 7, are all in the school system. So for me to be involved in early childhood was kind of like just natural. I just knew that this is what I was going to do. Except I didn't want to be stuck in a classroom because I have ADHD real bad. I didn't want to be in a classroom all day with little yelling students because I would probably jump out the window before they did. So I said, well, let me do social work. I can help people, I can move about, have flexibility, and I can help some children that may need to see somebody that looks like me in their community. So, went to Tuskegee. Any Tuskegee graduates? No. Okay, well. And got a degree in social work. And from there, went to Babies Can't Wait and worked with children with special needs for about 20 years. I started when I was 3. And from there, I took a part-time position with Mr. White as the center director over at Bankhead, one of our most underserved communities in Atlanta before it was revitalized. And found myself really, really liking what I was doing. And it's hard to find a job that you can like and understand that you're not going to get paid to do what you like. So fast forward to today on the Steve White Show, here I am, 25 years later, still liking what I do, still loving the children that I impact, still praying that each day, if I can go to work and change or help some little black boy, some family, some father to see something different in life, then my job would not have been in vain.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Lee, tell me what keeps you in the field.
What keeps me in the field is pretty much I like people. I like being around people. I like being around our families. I like being around kids. And it is the intentionality that we talked about that really, really now keeps me in the field. When I first came in the field, I was recruited. Like you said before, one of my coworkers came over to Sheltering Arms from another site in Atlanta, and he ended up recruiting 8 different guys over to Sheltering Arms. And at one point, we had at least half of our center directors or site directors were men at Sheltering Arms, and 5 of us came from the same place. So that's how I got into it, but once I got into it, I think all the guys finally said it's about having fun. And one big thing, and we talked about this in our meeting, one big thing for men, we're not going to continue to do a lot of things if it's not fun. So all of us who've been up here have been working in this field for a while now, and I've been here 15 years. So the first and foremost, having fun and just seeing the impact. I mean, it's not always the biggest thing, but like I said, walking in and you walk in the room, it's, hey, Mr. Lee, what's going on? We're going to throw the football today. They're asking me about my kids now. So it is just having that impact on that day-to-day impact in their lives and in the lives of our families.
Mr. Beard, same question.
Can we all say passion? Can you say passion? All right. What keeps me in this field is passion, motivation, and inspiration. I am very inspired to work with people, work with kids and their families. I'm a graduate of Morehouse College here in Atlanta, and thank you. House, and you had your chance. And we did a program at Morehouse, and part of a classroom project, and it was to mentor a young student in one of the lower economic areas in Atlanta. And I fell in love with it so much. I was a business major at the time, so I changed my major to sociology. And upon graduating from Morehouse, I began to work in the educational field and began to love it. And so I've always just been passionate and motivated just to work with families and to really just care about people. And this is what keeps me, driven to come every day to work with young people and their families.
One of the things that I learned as we were kind of talking about this is that the majority of us started out, it's only a few, a few that this doesn't apply to, but the majority of us started out working with our oldest of learners, our young adults. And we just kind of matriculated down through the system, from Job Corps to high school to elementary school into the birth to 5 community. And I can say that through that discussion, we realized the impact that we could have at this end, because it's very discouraging working in that space, knowing that if someone had impacted it early on in life, maybe that child that I'm talking to, maybe that child that is just so broken from what life has given them, that situation may be different. So I'm thankful for that fact. So I think we've got a group of men throughout the agency that have seen the end result. And because of it, we've kind of made a concerted effort to impact it on the front end to bring about some great change and results. So, and I'll just throw this out here. What impact have we made in the early childhood field with the presence of males working with young children? What are some of the advantages and what are some of the disadvantages? James, be good now, okay?
Some of the advantages, call it monkey see, monkey do. I try to set the bar here so that children, especially young males, can try to emulate me. I like it when parents come home and say, Mr. Holyfield, he was just trying to act like you and teach like you and do. I said, okay, well, maybe I'm doing my job. So maybe just trying to, like I say, impact and push in what I know and what I've learned over the years is probably one of the advantages that the kids have, or when I'm in the room with them.
Mm-hmm. Anybody want to talk about some disadvantages? Some of those isms that have developed over time? I know that's a key word for you.
I take a stab at something. I think people, especially children, they don't want to know how much you know until how much you care. And so with their parents and even with them, even at a young age, when they are in trouble and you're trying to chastise them or just trying to encourage them in such a way, I find myself in that balance of wanting to chastise, use a stern voice, but at the same time wanting to love, wanting to care about them, because in their home they may not have a father figure. And so it's a constant battle between this young man, needs some tough love, but at the same time, he needs a dad that really cares about him and that can really encourage him in such a way that he can understand what it is to be a young man, and that what he is doing in terms of how aggressive he is okay, but he needs to channel that energy in another way. And sometimes women can't do that. And so when you come to a man, we find it hard for us to try to be that stern man when we need to sometimes just be that nurturer as well, but show them, you know, a different perspective than a female.
I think one of the greatest disadvantages is that our society does not view education as valuable as it should be held, and that men, especially in this field, are not respected because they may think that maybe, okay, you didn't want to be an engineer, or you didn't want to be this. You want to teach what? You want to do what? So I think the respect level is not there. It is emerging, and it is coming full force because now men are entering the field, and men are not just principals. Men are early education teachers. So I think that once the political system and the system and the value system of people change around what is held to be important, then you'll see early education and men in early education be held highly.
One of the other disadvantages, don't get in the bathroom as fast. No, but it's...
No, it's true, really.
It's true, it's true. Yeah. It's the perspective of men actually working with children that we have to overcome, especially, we talked about this on Friday, especially in our infant and toddler rooms. You know, I've had to have conversations with parents, you know, they're not comfortable with a man changing the diaper or doing those things. And, you know, breaking that stigma that, you know, we're here for the kids, we're here, we can change diapers, we can do anything, everything that needs to be done. And we care.
Except breastfeeding.
Yeah, except breastfeeding. We care about the child, and that's why we're here. And it's breaking those stereotypes that men should not be working, you know, especially with the infants and toddlers, is a big stigma that we have disadvantaged, that we have to fight and overcome. One of the big advantages is because men and women learn so differently. Kind of always use the analogy when we go out on the playground, the men become the playground. You know, it's not just us on the playground, we become the playground. You know, kids are running, because we're hands-on, we're visual, so we're running, we're playing, we're jumping, we're doing the same things that the kids do. So we become the playground, and that's a big advantage. That's when you see them mimicking us or doing those things, because we're actually hands-on, getting on, doing those things with them.
Yeah. You know, I was at one of our sites last week, and actually, where's Ethan? Ethan was, he's an infant teacher, so he was, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't infant, I'm sorry, it was James. Where's James at? Oh, there's James right there. He's a preschool teacher, and he was in his classroom, and I walked in to talk to him about some things, and when I walked in, the first thing I see is him holding a doll. He's got it wrapped in, you know, a cloth or whatever, and he was talking to the kids about how to handle the baby. You can't pay for that. You know what I mean? What is that kid learning from Mr. Jackson? You know, he's learning, because he was a little boy, you know, what nurturing is. Those are those things that we talk extensively about expulsion. You know, when kids learn nurturing at a young age, it makes a difference. So how impactful is it for this male teacher to show and exhibit it? You can't put a price tag on it. So that's why we have to be intentional about what we do. Okay, so we're going to bring this back to the center so we can begin wrap up. And what I would like to ask are, first of all, are there any questions about anything, or are there statements from your table talk that you would like to share with the group? So if you have some thoughts or opinions, please come to the mic and share them with the group.
I just want Lee to share exactly what you just said to us about men walking in that building.
We were just talking about, you know, how to get men involved and how to keep them involved. One of the things I said is, when you see a male come to the center, they're already involved. They're in your center. And I think we have to celebrate that. We tend to look at, we see them come in once, we don't see them enough, or we don't, it's always the negative end, as opposed to when you see them come in your center, you have to celebrate because they're already involved. The minute they walk through that door, they're involved with that child already. And you know they're involved with that child because you see them. So it's important that you celebrate those small successes. Because most men, honestly, all it takes, and especially it is one of those things we're trying to work with all men, and tell fathers, you still have to be involved whether it's a good feeling or not. But if you walk through the door and it's not a good feeling, most men are not going to come back. They're going to say, you dropped that child off. I don't want to go back in that center. You know, so we have to remember, the minute you see them, put a smile on your face. Be happy. Be happy that they're dropping the child off, that they're already involved. Not just when we need stuff moved, not just when we need stuff lifted. I mean, it's the truth. It is the truth. You know, sometimes I used to wonder, what did y'all do before I got here? Did anything ever get moved? So part of that being is we have to be involved. And you have to be happy that they're walking through the door, just like most times you're happy when the mom walks through the door or the aunt or whoever walks through the door.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
One thing that we share with getting males involved, how do we get them involved when different benefits or different funding sources may be at stake? So you had a family, put dad down, guess what? You're not going to qualify for child care anymore. The state of Illinois has something in it when you must put down your father, you must have child support in place in order to receive any type of government assistance. Therefore, we have families who may have a good working unit, may have the dad involved. We know nothing of it because they don't want to mess up the different resources that they are receiving because we need them. So you have secret fathers. So how do we get them involved but not risk them losing their subsidies?
Obviously that's kind of that has so many tentacles to it. But what I will say is this. My opinion about it is I'm more concerned about the child. So everything that we talk about in Educare always goes back to the child. What's best for the child? How you determine that makeup is up to you. But the last thing I would want, if you have that invisible father and that child doesn't see it, then it's invisible. The father's invisible to the child too. So it is a very slippery slope, and I understand because, it's everywhere. But at the end of the day, I would rather have that space that is comfortable for men to come into regardless of the situation way more than I would, playing the shadow games because, a child's life is at stake at the end of the day. Okay. So I want to wrap this up really quick because I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to we had the question at our table of how do we recruit and retain men? And we talked a lot about it's really a bigger, besides the breaking the gender roles and all of that, it's also about elevating our profession because of the way we're socialized, men aren't going to pick a job necessarily that makes so little money when they're socialized to be the breadwinner and you have to do this and other men are going to look at you like this. And so it's really a bigger problem. And of course, the women all want to make more money too.
Right.
But I mean, I am of the belief that part of the reason why early childhood educators make so little money is because it is dominated by women. And we have seen research that, women make 74 cents to the male dollar. Why would a man be attracted to making 74 cents to a dollar he can make in another profession? So we talked a lot about really elevating us as a whole, then we can draw in well-qualified men, who then believe that they can sustain their family off of this, because we know once you get into it, you can, but a college student's not going to know that. So I just wanted to share that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I want to wrap up our session with one quick story. There's an author, his name is Wes Moore, and he's a best-selling author. He's also a motivational speaker, and I had an opportunity to hear him last summer here in a lecture series. And one of the things he talked about, he told the story of when his wife was having their child. And the whole time that she was pregnant, he was talking to the womb, talking to the womb, talking to the womb, every day, talking to the womb, talking to the womb. So when his daughter, I think it was his daughter, one or two, he's got one or the other, was born, that daughter, thank you. So when the daughter was born, she was in as he described it, the oven warmer, and she was just hollering, 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 hollering. And he said he went over to her and he said, "Welcome. We've been expecting you. I'm so excited to see you. I've been talking to you for a long time." And he said slowly but surely his daughter started to calm down and she stopped crying. And he believed at that moment, he realized the power that he had in his daughter's life because she was able to hold on to that voice in this space. We have the power to change lives as men. And this is not a gender thing, it's a real thing. I believe that my impact, these guys' impact, the men in your program's impact goes beyond the obvious. And we have to allow that voice to be cultivated and be a part of the environment. Educare is wonderful. Just think of what it would be if those percentages were higher and the work we were doing. So I want to thank the panel, first and foremost. I want to thank the Table Talk leaders. I want to thank, excuse me. Oh, the gentleman. That's right. Yes. And I want to thank Renee for your vision and allowing us to have this space and time. So I'm going to turn it over to my CEO, I believe.
Sure. So I'll just stand over here. I'm not part of this program, but I just had to come in. And I was so upset I wasn't able to be here and actually witness this particular discussion because I was in the executive director group. But I just want to say thank you to my team on the panel, in the audience. It is just something really special at Educare Atlanta and Sheltering Arms to have so many men who are there to support our children and families. So thank you, Steve, for leading the discussion. I won't say everyone's names, but thank you guys for all being here today. I appreciate you, our children appreciate you, and our families appreciate you. Thank you.